This is the Nokia N9, a phone with a tumultuous upbringing, courtesy of Nokia's major switchover to use Windows Phone as its primary OS. The Nokia N9, however, is not such a device, and in fact looks to become a bit of a cult classic, as its market reception has been far warmer than its inception at the hands of what some could call a new Nokia. Despite Nokia CEO Stephen Elop's decision to abandon MeeGo, a wealth of excitement and support amassed from fans of this unique device. The Nokia N9's MeeGo is an all-touch mobile OS that has some serious potential under its belt. Hardware-wise, the N9 aims to cover all its bases with a wealth of connectivity options, including quad-band GSM GPRS Edge and pentaband 3G HSDPA HSUPA support, full Wi-Fi connectivity, and of course Bluetooth 2.1 with A2DP support. The heavy lifting is carried out by a 1GHz Cortex A8 CPU, a PowerVR SGX530 GPU, and a gig of RAM. The setup on the front consists of a 3.9-inch AMOLED display, covered in Gorilla Glass, and on the back, an 8-megapixel autofocus camera with a dual LED flash, an f2.2 lens, and 720p HD video recording capability at 27 frames per second. A look around the polycarbonate unibody shows just how much care appears to have been taken with the industrial design of the N9. There are certainly downfalls to the body of the phone, such as a non-removable battery and no SD card slot, but the visual impact of the N9 is terrific. Nokia have kept it clean and simple, but it's still very much distinctive. If you're a fan of minimalist design, you can't go wrong with the N9. The top of the device holds a 3.5mm AV jack at one end, followed by a micro USB port and the SIM slot, neatly concealed by the top cover. The bottom of the phone is reserved for the speaker grille, where the microphone sits too. The right side has two chromed controls, one being the power lock key, and the other the volume rocker, and the left side has nothing at all, just the rounded edge of that polycarbonate frame. The Gorilla Glass on the front has some nice detailing too, such as its rounded corners, and it conceals the front-facing camera, oddly situated in the bottom right, the power indicator in the bottom left, the proximity sensor, and above the display, the earpiece. The busiest part of the design, relatively speaking, is on the back, with a centrally mounted camera unit in parallel with a dual LED flash and a secondary microphone. The N9's 3.9-inch AMOLED outputs at FWVGA resolution, and being an AMOLED, promises some excellent contrast ratios, and of course absolute blacks. In our display comparison, it also came out as one of the brightest AMOLEDs we'd seen, and thanks to a low reflectivity display, sunlight legibility is excellent. A nice feature that the N9's display totes is that even when the phone is locked, a clock is always displayed. As it uses an AMOLED, only the pixels displaying the clock draw power, so battery life doesn't really take a hit. The OS is really what the N9 is about though. Running MeeGo version 1.2 Harmattan, the N9 brings a unique user experience amidst the likes of iOS and Android. It's effectively an all-touch UI, including features like volume control and locking/unlocking the screen, meaning the aforementioned hardware buttons could have well been omitted from the design, without any detrimental effects. The screen unlocks after a quick double tap, followed by a swipe, and from there, users can swipe left or right to move between the app launcher, task manager, and social feeds. Tapping the status bar at the top also brings down a pane, which allows you to quick switch between profiles, control volume, and displays a summary of any recent transfers. With that gig of RAM, the OS is silky smooth, even with over 15 odd applications running in the background. It's an impressive skill, and one power users would greatly appreciate. The pre-installed applications of course run without a hitch, and despite the amount of content on offer from the get-go, the phone-wide search functionality makes it easy to sort through apps, contacts, and files. Media on the N9 is well-rounded. The photo viewer comes with all the sharing options you'd want, including email, Bluetooth, and NFC, and the gallery itself can filter photos in a snap. The video player is similarly well thought out, and uses a nice thumbnail view that shows video length, formats, and other information as you scroll through your library. You can also search for related videos on YouTube if you want. We were impressed with the 8 hours and 40 minutes the N9 lasted in our video test on a single charge, not to mention its DivX and Xvid codec support out of the box. 720p video was a treat on the N9 too, but it won't be stealing the media player crown from any other high-end smartphones just yet. The music player looks great, but doesn't offer quite as deep functionality relative to its video player counterpart, with what we would consider missing features like extra EQ controls or single song repeat, but these are minor quips to the overall media experience. The Nokia N8 came onto the scene with a fantastic 12-megapixel camera unit that has garnered a lot of attention, and with this the N9 had big shoes to fill as a successor. Despite the drop to 8 megapixels, the N9 still does a decent job of producing some seriously neat shots. We even put the N8 and N9 back to back to highlight any differences in the cameras. Nokia were quick to point out that the N9 uses an enlarged sensor so that it can shoot stills in 16:9 as well as 4:3 without such a loss in quality. Video doesn't exactly get the same warm reception that stills do. For starters, the N9 can only shoot up to 720p HD video at 27 frames per second, a resolution once only reserved for the cream of the crop, but now available on devices far further down the rankings without breaking a sweat. The main issues are that the videos are slightly choppy, and there's a bit of distortion and colour variation here, and we were hoping for something a little more impressive for a device in this price range. The video camera UI mirrors the stills, which is good, but of course scene settings are reduced, and beyond that you can only have access to toggles like white balance and exposure compensation to play with on the fly. The micro SIM is not the only feature that the N9 shares with certain Apple products. The web browser lacks flash support, but that being said, it is in fact an excellent browser overall. With a simplified search bar that searches for specific URLs and across Google simultaneously, the N9 makes finding pages easy, and its solution to tabbed browsing is certainly unique too. Unlike typical tabbed browsing, even on a mobile device, where they might use cards or panes, the N9 treats each tab as effectively a new application, adding them to the Task Manager pane one by one on the main UI. An intriguing solution that seems to work quite well. Bookmarks can be added to the app launcher pane, much like Safari Mobile does on iOS, comprised of a user-created name and an automatically created icon. Despite any shortcomings in functionality the browser may have, the experience is so smooth and intuitive, we find it hard to knock. It's difficult to really sum up the Nokia N9 as it's such an unusual beast. There's a lot to love about the unique experience it brings, and despite its flaws and faults, the N9 has a certain charm that we can't help but admire. MeeGo does a fantastic job as a fully fledged mobile OS, and both Nokia and Intel should be proud of what they have created. The lack of ongoing support and elements of the hardware, however, make this a device you'd have to purchase after careful consideration. As long as you know what you're getting into, the N9 could be a fantastic device, with its rich, unique user experience and eye-catching design. But with new arrivals such as the Samsung Galaxy Nexus and the iPhone 4S, you need to be sure you're not missing out on something better, if not a little less individual. For a full rundown of the Nokia N9, read the full written review on gsmarina.com.